This moment, we are going to look at a very important subject. We cannot keep putting it aside. We can't keep pretending. That's why I'm going to make us study on divorce. The subject is the journey towards divorce. Now let's read from Matthew 19, verses 4, 5, and 6. And he answered and said unto them, Have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. This message is not intended to give directions or relevance to the acts of divorce. Rather, it is intended to expose the ugly steps that the enemy is using to weaken marriages and subsequently even kill marriages. So it is important that in order to let marriages live, let's know what the enemy is using to destroy them. But before we go to that, I want us to look at some of the terminologies in the game of marriage. Now, in the story of creation, we read that God made male and female, which simply means that's the definition for gender. The male animals, the male birds, everything male and female, even human, male, female. We also read man and woman. That is a relationship to the community and the society of those males. See, we have what we say, male teachers, female teachers, male pilots, female pilots, and that's the description of those. They are the gender, the relationship to the community. Then we have husband and wife, which is a particular relationship between man and woman. And we also have father and mother, which is the relationship they have to keep to their kids. Now, we should not mix up the man and woman for wife and husband, because the fact is, you can be in a home, you cook together, you sleep together, you eat together, you even have children together, yet you are not wives, you are not husbands, and yet you have a common relationship. That relationship should not be mistaken because you have children, because you are together in a house, and because of that you say we are husband and wife. That does not work. There is a special bond that we are going to see that makes for wife and husbands. Now, in the story of marriage, we have what we call the concept of one and one in one, which means that the husband and the wife, they are one according to the word of the living God. But that does not mean that the individuals are no longer maintaining their identity. What that means is that in the spirit of the marriage, they are brought together into oneness, emotionally attracted, physically engaging, desiring the betterment of the other person, of course, first, as in the Lord. That would mean that there are no secrets, that in that their journey is open, an open book between the two persons. In their language, in their walk, it's open. Their endeavors, whatever they do it together in their journey. It also means that in that journey, it will not be, the journey of marriage is not infiltrated or influenced by third parties. third parties cannot come into it, make decisions. They will not come into it and influence the way the home is made. If that is acceptable, it's no longer in the uniformity of or in the form of marriage, because third parties come into it. Now, in a marriage, if we have to get counseling, that is, if we must have a third party, that should be done in mutual consent of the two parties concerned. For when in the day of wedding, the man and the woman are declared husband and wife, what that means is they are separated from parents, they are separated from friends, they begin a journey that binds and bonds them together in every way, in every direction. So, in their culture, in their behavior, in whatever they do, it is done with the understanding that these two are brought together, not three, two are brought together. Now, what will make their marriages not whole, form, what invites divorce, what separates them, is that which we have now to look into. And let's now take the story of divorce. In this, I'm going to look at it from three angles. I'm going to look at it from the spiritual connection. We are going to look at it from the emotional connection. And we are going to look at it from the physical connections. Now, the spiritual connections, in the sense that the union departs from the count of oneness through disconnection of the souls. I want to be sure in this and to put it out there that by the time we allow a third party to come into our marriage and begin taking decisions and begin taking actions, we are opening doors for what Isaiah 54:16 says. Isaiah 54:16 says that whether marriages or unions can be destroyed by the elements or the agents of wasters and destroyers. He actually calls them wasters and destroyers. So these wasters and destroyers have the capacity to separate marriages. I want to say, when we look at what they do, when a third party comes in, that third party has the tendency to make sure that something begins to disconnect in order for the third party to fit into it. And what the first thing they do, the first thing that takes place is a spiritual disconnection, the cutting of the souls. We hear often in marriages, it is said that they are soulmates. Soulmates means two clinging together, coming together. Now, there is no place where it is said, there is no place in scriptures where it is said that there should be a triangle, except a triangle where God is there and the two parties come together. But there are no triangles for broken individuals to come in. Now, when you read the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 15, it tells us that where one of the individual departs because he is an unbeliever, so you see that there is the possibility that marriages can get divorced because of the spiritual standing. An unbeliever getting into marriage with a believer, certainly there will be that disconnection. Then when we look at 1 Samuel 24 verses 24, 29 and 31, in fact, they just read all of 1 Samuel 25, the Abigail story. You will realize that there is an emotional detachment. Where there is emotional detachment in the marriage, it is bound to collapse. The part that attracts the individuals into one another, that stimulates the beings to come together, emotion plays an important role, because in the absence of one and even in the presence of one, it is that element of emotion that pulls, that brings them, that looks for the other, it connects them. So when the feelings, when the generator that brings them makes the images useful, the images meaningful in marriage, in the hearts of the parties involved, when that image or when that element is compromised, you realize that they can be together in a house, but they are far separated. They can be there, but separated. Why? Because the emotions, the feelings are destroyed. So we must make sure that we be careful in our marriages, because the emotions will trigger romance. The emotions will cause us, will activate our love, or will activate the ties, and then bring our memories, bring our hearts, bring our minds, and push our feelings towards one another. So emotions are very important in marriages. The emotions, the feelings, some may want to say it is love, but I want to keep that for later. Now, the next thing is our material connections. You see, a knowledge of belonging with every belonging, allowing titleship of possessions onto one another, opening the doors for whom I am and what I have. That is going to make the marriages pull together instead of pulling apart. Now, marriages that individuals begin to withhold some things from others, that can bring forth a separation. It can make a gap where there is no gap. Now, this may be difficult in some places to talk about, to bring materialism into the marriage, but make no error, it has an important place to play. The concept of marriage ties together the individual in all the individual is and owns into a union with another individual with all the individual is and owns. It is believed that for the marriage to be wholesomely whole, that is totally holistic, the spiritual must be there, the emotional must be there, and of course the material must come together. One begins to wonder how it could be that we are prepared to share our bodies and share it without shame, share it in the fullness, nakedness, sharing with one another without any feelings. One will imagine how we can share our feelings. We touch one another, we grab one another, we pull one another to ourselves. Then when it comes to our the material aspects, we shy away from it. When that happens, it becomes dangerous. It becomes dangerous to the welfare of the union, and it becomes a challenge if we can give everything else and we willfully hold back some things materially. It will make the union lack something and become suspicious. Suspicion will come into it. There comes the point of friction and ruptures of intimacy, and pulls away closeness, because if we can share everything, share our bodies, share our minds, share all things together, then there is one thing you are holding back. The question begins to point to it. And many marriages have fallen apart because of that. When we look at statistics, it tells us that 21 to 33% of marriages have fallen apart because of the material aspect of it. So the love for materialism, or the love of materialism, is a killer in marriage. Now, it is important that when we come into the union of marriage, we bring the whole thing. We are ready for everything else. We are ready to give ourselves. We are ready to give our emotions. We are ready for the spiritual, and we are ready for the material as well. Now, when you look at the book of Deuteronomy 24 and from 2 to 4, Moses advised the children of Israel who can no longer get together, who can no longer continue in marriage. He advised them that they should give a bill of divorce. Now, that is the part of the marriage that comes to public. Now, there can be spiritual divorce, and the people will be at home but are already divorced spiritually. There will be emotional divorce. The people will be together under one roof, but they are not together indeed in the marriage. There can be material divorce. The people are there under one roof, but still the marriage is not binding together as it is. Now, when all this takes place, the last of it is the physical divorce. And that is the part which comes to the community, to the public, where one party, particularly in this part of the world, the husband will pack off his load, pack off his cargo, pack off his belonging, whatever he has, and leaves the home, and leave the wife in the home. Or in some other cultures, it will be the wife that packs and quits the home, leaving the husband in the home. That is the part that we see physically. We see that one physically. So because it is physically, it is physical divorce. Now, but before that comes to it, it must have had its decays. It must have had its journey it has taken. There must have been a spiritual separation. There must have been an emotional separation. There must have been material separation before the end of it is the physical separation. Why this is important? It's important in that counselors, those of us who are counselors, and those who are teachers of marriages, make sure that you put this in the spirits and in the hearts of those who are counseling, so that they know it. They know that marriages are something that takes and brings together all of this. You see, many counselors go astray in just assessing and evaluating divorce problems by taking what they see, by looking at the female as woman and the male as man, and bringing what they know into it. Because of that, they forget that wife and husband is a situation, a position where the best to say what they have to say and be open up is the wife and the husband, because they know it. Not even the children, because they relate to them as father and mother. Not even the community, not even the church, because one party can be actually good in the community, in hospitality, in the church, doing everything, but is a tyrant to the party at home. Can be a good woman in the church, a good woman in the community, a good woman in the place of work, but at home is not a good wife. Can be a good man in church, good member in community, good out there, but at home is not a good husband. So that distinction should be there. Let us not forget that the public appearance and public performance does not justify that the spouses at home are actually living husband and wife. You know, dogs bark at strangers and knows their masters, but then spouses bark at each other at home and then smile and be cordial to strangers. That's how it is. At home you are different, but when you get to the public community, you are wonderful. So that is it. I want us to know this, so that when there is a problem, a marital problem at home, get to look at the spiritual aspect of it. Is the spiritual connection still there? Look at the emotional. Is the emotional connection still there? Look at the love of materialism, which is a killer. How is it being handled? And then you will be able to hold the last, which is the physical divorce. Now I want to let us know that this is so important. It's so important in marital life, and that's why I've taken some time to make sure that we know it. God bless you as you hit to this and you keep onto it, and your marriage will certainly be fruitful. You'll be able to know how to fence your marriage, protect your marriage, preserve it, and foster it from divorce. God bless you.